Welcome to a Fallout 76 episode. Well, I've been taking a closer look at the rest of the year's roadmap, and I noticed something called camp shelters. So let's take a look at the roadmap. So when the roadmap first came out, I started focusing on things like the Brotherhood of Steel and, legendary perk cards, but I completely missed the camp shelters. It says right in the middle of the image, build instanced interiors. So that got me thinking. First of all, I just want to talk to you about what a game instance is. The Wikipedia says, in massively multiplayer online games, an instance is a special area, typically a dungeon, that generates a new copy of the location for each group or a certain number of players that enters the area. Instancing, the general term for the use of this technique, addresses several problems encountered by players in the shared spaces of virtual worlds, just like Fallout 76. And what I think this is going to do for us is when we have camp instances, more than likely only your 4 team members will be allowed into your camp shelter. And as to why they're going to do this in Fallout 76, I'm fairly certain it is to help us increase our camp budget. Because having players participate in instances tends to spread out populations of players instead of concentrating them, which may reduce or level the workload for both the server and client by limiting the number of potential interactions between players and objects that would take place out in the world. Because the player characters in the instance do not need to be updated on all the information going on outside the instance and vice versa, there's an overall decrease in demands on the network, and the net result being less lag for players. This also reduces demands on players' computers, as the number of objects to be processed can be more easily limited by the game's developer. So back a few months ago, Bethesda Game Studios hosted a Ask Me Anything question and answer session on Reddit. And one of the questions was, what's the plan with the camp system? And the developer answered, you want it, and oh my god, the dev team wants it too. One of the greatest joys is sharing the wild and wacky stuff the community does with their camps, but just flat out increasing the budget would have a real significant performance ramification. So it's a balancing act. But we plan on doing some very fun things with camps in 2020, and I feel that's what they're talking about right there, are the camp shelters. And during the same AMA, project lead Jeff Gardner said, hey, we're looking into both increasing the budget and other quality of life tuning as well. So there are 2 official responses to camp budget. So if you take camp budget and the camp shelter coming up, you have the possibility, not the possibility, we absolutely positively have camp shelters coming this winter for our camps. Now, what does that mean? Let's go right to one of the probably the first location you're visiting now at Fallout 76, and that is the Wayward Inn. So if we use this location as a camp example, we can say that this is your camp shelter. And as you can see, you cannot see into the building. All the windows are blocked out because that is the game instance right there. Now, more than likely, you will not be able to, say, pierce the walls with power connections and conduits. You're more than likely, if you have water outside, like this example, you're going to have to power it outside of your shelter. And there are the windows that are all blocked out. If we can assume that these would be your vending machines, they obviously would be on the outside, powered on the outside. And it gives you complete privacy and hopefully the much expanded budget on the interior. Now, how it's going to work, if, say, scorched attack or something, do you get that notice on the inside? And probably here it says the Wayward, it'll probably say your camp name, enter, and if you're on a team, you can enter also, but nobody else. So this is going to afford people a bigger budget to build their camp, also privacy, put items on display, etc., etc. And here we are inside the Wayward. So if the camp budget is expanded, it's going to be a lot of fun to build a massive interior that is solely to your tastes, design, etc. And like I said, a much larger camp budget. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to work this all together in the winter. If you have any other suggestions, comments, questions, discussions, please put them in the comments below. I'm very excited about what people think about this new feature called Camp Shelters coming this winter. And thanks so very much for watching, and I'll see you out in the wasteland.